The muskets, the majority of the soldiers are shooting is a 75 caliber smoothbore musket called the King's Arm. It would later be called the Brown Bess during the American Revolution. It fires a 69 caliber ball, so it shoots a ball a little bit bigger. Okay, thank you. Shoots a ball about a little bit bigger than a half-inch in diameter, or you can shoot 2 of those at once, or you can shoot 1 of those and 4 pistol balls at the same time. So those are much smaller, called buck and ball, where you're shooting 5 bullets at one time. The gun is a smooth barrel, so it weighs about 12 pounds. It has a kill range of 200 yards. It has an effective range of closer to 100, and ideally you want your target within 30 yards. So about a third of a football field, or closer, if you're actually going to try to hit what you're pointing at. So the gun is a flint lock, which means it uses flint. Does anyone know what flint is?
Volcanic glass.
What is flint?
It's igneous rock.
It is a rock. Very good. Yes. It's a very hard rock, in fact. The rock is much harder than the steel that the gun is made out of, or that the face plate there on the excuse me, on the hammer is made out of. So when the flint comes down striking the hammer, it shaves little pieces of metal off. They will come off as sparks. They will fall in that pan, which will be filled with gunpowder, hopefully igniting the gunpowder in said pan, which then ignites the gunpowder in the barrel. The gun then goes boom, and we have dead Spaniards and Frenchmen on the other end. That's what we hope for, ideally. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. That is the hazard of this gun, is it is not always effective. Thank you, Robert. So, if you would like, we will demonstrate it for you again, and then we can discuss a little more about it if you'd like.
I would.
Take care. Prime and load. So your average British soldier of the time could load and fire 3 rounds a minute. Some could load faster than that, but the average was 3 rounds a minute. These are not good British soldiers, so they will be loading much slower than that. Plus, we're more worried about safety than we are about throwing a lot of lead downrange. We are also just shooting powder. We are not shooting lead balls out into the woods because, again, that's not necessarily safe. And the soldiers did typically fire in what we're doing, which is volley fire, where all your soldiers load at the same time and they all shoot at the same time. Now, the other thing you have to imagine is a standard firing line is 100 soldiers, not 5. So if you have 100 men in a company all firing at once, they're usually going to be a line of 3 men deep. The front rank will drop to a knee. The back 2 ranks will remain standing, and they will all shoot at the same time. And if you're loaded with buck and ball, which is that 5 balls in one shot, you're throwing 500 rounds at the enemy somewhere between their kneecaps and their neck in one shot. So that is a lot of lead downrange, which is what you're trying to do, is push the opposing force off by killing enough of them that they panic and scatter off the field, and then you take the field. And that's what we're looking for. Right.
Musket fire and cover your ears. Musket fire and cover your ears.
Freeze that. 1. Fire! So that's a volley fire. Now, when you look at the musket, yes, young lady.
Do you think that with the three men deep, do you think that it would happen that they would often accidentally shoot each other a lot, or what is it like?
Well, that would cause a problem. But no, because once you get, Joseph, Charlie, we'll show you what it looks like when we're talking 3 deep, so to give you a better idea. Thank you. Yes.
Oh, I wonder who's going on the bottom.
Joseph drops to the knee. He'll fall in behind him. So what he's going to do, he'll drop to the knee, straight down. He steps in with his foot into his back foot. He's in the 3rd rank. He steps his foot in there. So when if they were to come to present their arms at you, this gun's going to go straight across. This gun is going to cross above him and far enough out. And this gun should come over his shoulder and far enough out that the barrel will almost pass past this man. And it's high enough up he doesn't have to worry about it. So as long as they all drop into the position they're supposed to, then it's almost impossible for them to shoot each other. Now, if they got all scattered and messed up, there's always the possibility, I guess, that you could shoot the man in front of you, which would be unfortunate and would really slow things down. But ideally, they should step up into this. And then after they shoot, they automatically go back to the position they are. So these guys both stand straight, he comes straight back up. Then they would reload, and then when we say make ready, on the first command of make ready, he drops to the knee and puts the butt of the musket on the gun, and they all step in. So yeah, go ahead and turn this way.
How long did it take to reload?
You could do up the average British soldier was doing 3 shots a minute. So really fast when you consider all
That
the
includes
steps.
reloading, cleaning, and everything.
Yeah, that's from firing to being ready to fire again. So go
See
ahead.
that? It's real sharp. That's if you hard, it will poke you and it will be dead.
So you see there, and then when they present, so go ahead and present, but off to the front. You can see where the barrels all end up. So it's almost impossible for anybody to get shot with their own gun, and that's part of the advantage of these long guns. If you had a much shorter gun, then yeah, or Joseph here might catch one in the back of the ear, but the rest of them are all right. All right, thank you. If you would, while you're here, show them the bayonet. So this little tab on the end is not a sight. On a modern gun, you would look at that and think, well, that's what you look at to aim. In our case, that's called a bayonet lug. And the bayonet locks on there. So when you then take and stab something, the bayonet stays attached to whatever you stab, or stays attached to the gun instead of whatever you stab, because, you know, that's the whole point is to be able to stab more, and if it comes off in the person you stab it into, not as effective. So that's the whole purpose of that end point, is purely to hold the bayonet in place, not really meant for you to look down the end of the gun and sight off of.
Can I have one more thing?
You may.
There are a lot of expressions that we use that are from the 18th century. We may not realize they come from that far back. This was referred to as a fire lock, and because this is the lock part of it. So anybody ever heard the expression lock, stock, and barrel?
Whole lock, stock, and barrel.
That's exactly what this is referring to. This is the stock, this is the lock, and this is the barrel. That's when you get the whole thing at one time. Also, there are the expression flash in the pan. That's when this fires, it sparks here, but does not fire the main charge. Going off half cocked. This is in the half cocked position. That is the safety position for a fire lock, but if the spring is loose, it will actually fire and going off at half cocked. So those are 3 that we still use 250 plus years later that started during this time period.
Thank you. Anybody have any other questions?
Was there any hearing protection at all?
What?
Any hearing protection at
What?
all put in use?
No. You would occasionally, on the artillery, you might have men that would stuff tow, which is your linen equivalent of cotton, in their ears. But there was no requirement for hearing safety at that period, obviously, and it would have been up to the men to do it. So they'd add. If you see some accounts of men taking cloth or wadding cloth and putting in there. The reality is, shooting the musket, if you're not the man in the middle, it's not really all that loud. If you're the guy shooting in the middle of those 3 ranks, it's really loud. So deafness in the 18th century for soldiers was not an uncommon ailment. So. Any other questions? All right, well, enjoy your visit. Go around and see some folks.